Hello, everyone. My name is Oleg Kagan, and I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator with LA County Library, and I welcome you to Work Ready, Emotional Self-Management for Effective Leadership. Before we get going with today's event, I'll take care of some housekeeping, do the land acknowledgement, and tell you a little bit about the Work Ready program. So if you can hear me and see the slide on the screen, then you're good to go. However, if you're having trouble hearing me or seeing the slide, do let me know in the chat and I will do my best to assist. If you'd like to listen to this presentation on the phone, you can do that by calling 1-669-900-6833 using the access code 853-6141-0072 and the passcode 123123. Additionally, automated closed captioning is available on Zoom in case you'd like to read along with the presentation. To enable that, you would press the CC button in your Zoom window. And that you may have noticed that the mics and video for attendees of the program have been disabled. That's so everyone can focus on our presenter for the day. We do, however, welcome your questions and comments. We'll have time for questions. A question should go into the Q&A box. That's the one with the single speech bubble, and comments can go in the chat. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our land acknowledgement. The County of Los Angeles recognizes that we occupy land originally and still inhabited and cared for by the Tongva, Tataviam, Serrano, Kizh, and Chumash peoples. We honor and pay respect to their elders and descendants, past, present, and emerging, as they continue their stewardship of these lands and waters. We acknowledge that settler colonization resulted in land seizure, disease, subjugation, slavery, relocation, broken promises, genocide, and multi-generational trauma. This acknowledgement demonstrates our responsibility and commitment to truth, healing, and reconciliation, and to elevating the stories, culture, and community of the original inhabitants of Los Angeles County. We are grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on these ancestral lands. We are dedicated to growing and sustaining relationships with Native peoples and local tribal governments, including, in no particular order, the Fernandino Tataviam Band of Mission Indians, the Gabrielino Tongva Indians of California Tribal Council, the Gabrielino Tongva San Gabriel Band of Mission Indians, the Gabrielino Band of Mission Indians Kizh Nation, the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, and the San Fernando Band of Mission Indians. To learn more about the First Peoples of Los Angeles County, please visit the Los Angeles City County Native American Indian Commission website at lanic.lacounty.gov. All right. And now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Work Ready program before we begin. So the Work Ready started in December of 2020 with the library lending laptops and hotspots out of 27 library locations and presenting virtual events just like this one on a range of work-related topics to help people get a job, improve their work situation, and plan a more sustainable career path. To see over 50 of our past events, head over to our work and career playlist on our YouTube channel. And I'm going to post a link to that in the chat. You can share that with friends who you feel would be interested in the content. And I recommend going back and checking out what we've done in the past because a lot of topics that people have questions about, we have covered sometimes at length and sometimes multiple times. So I highly recommend checking that out. We do have a great event coming up for you additionally next week, next Tuesday, February 11th at 11 a.m. to 11:11. That is Careers in Freelance Grant Writing. We had a panel looking at fundraising careers last year, and that was very well received. And we had a lot of questions during that panel about getting into freelance grant writing. And so we're bringing the panel back next week to cover that topic in depth. And that program is, of course, free on February 11th at 11 o'clock. I just posted a link in the chat so you can register for that. And Zoom will send you a reminder 24 hours before the program. So in case you sign up now and forget, you will be reminded. All right. If you're interested in other programs, whether virtual or in person from LA County, you can always visit our website at lacountylibrary.org. On the top right-hand side, you can click the events button, and that'll open up the full calendar for all ages programs that are at all of our locations and some which are presented virtually, like this one. If you're just interested in virtual programs, you can hover over that events button. It'll be a little drop down as virtual programming. Click on that and you'll get just the Zoom programs. And of course, all of those, just like this one, are absolutely free and available to you. All right, now it's time to get going with today's event, Emotional Self-Management for Effective Leadership. And to present this event, we're bringing back to Work Ready Lorraine Aguilar. Lorraine helps leaders and teams realize their highest potential by developing their ability to communicate powerfully with empathy. She has trained leaders at Apple, Microsoft, Nissan, and the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Her internationally recognized training programs are based on nonviolent communication, or NVC, an empathy-based framework for mindful communication that promotes collaboration, connection across differences, inclusion, and belonging. You can find out more and connect with Lorraine at workingharmony.com. And with that, Lorraine, the stage is yours.
Yay. Thank you, Oleg, and welcome, everyone. So this is a topic that is close to my heart and I think more timely than ever. So let me go ahead and begin by sharing the slides so we can talk about what we're going to cover in the next under hour and a half, probably closer to an hour, and leaving time for your questions. So as you know, we're all here to practice how do we empathize instead of react. And let's begin with a question. Think about your own life. Have you ever regretted sending a text or email while angry? And if that applies to you, go ahead and type yes in the chat, or a Y if that's easier for you. Let's see, how many of you? Yes, 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 yes. And here's the follow on. Okay, we got a lot of yeses coming in. If so, how recently? I'm curious. Like, is this something from your distant past, or is this something that's still kind of fresh for you? 2 weeks ago, yesterday to my partner, a week ago, 5 years ago, a week ago, an hour ago. Yeah, it's easy, especially with people that we love and feel comfortable with. Sometimes we can let our guard down and not be as mindful as we are necessarily in the workplace when all eyes are on us, especially as leaders. So here's the second question. Oh, I love these comments that we're getting in. The second one is, um, uh, please type Y again. If in your professional career you've ever witnessed someone having what we kind of jokingly call a career limiting reaction. If you have ever witnessed, or maybe it was you, either witness yourself or others having a career limiting reaction, go ahead and type yes in the chat. And let's see. Oh, yes, exclamation point. Yes, unfortunately, with a very kind of embarrassed emoji. Oh, we get a lot of emphatic yeses. Okay. The reason I asked this question is because this topic is focused on leadership skills. And honestly, this is about leadership at all levels. It doesn't matter whether you're employed or unemployed, or what your rank is within your organization. We are all leaders. Some of the greatest changes to our organizations and society have come from the lowest of places, from grassroots, from the streets, from the cubicles. And so the higher we are up in an organization, or the more visible we are, the more, if we lose our cool or get angry or yell, that stays with us, and that could actually stain our career. People remember when you yell. People remember when you lose your stuff, lose your cool. And that creates an environment of lack of trust. And now people can be afraid you might be a landmine in the future. So one of the quickest ways to be a pariah in your own workplace is to lose control of your emotions. And so that's why we're here, not to suppress, but to find the gold in it and to transform it into something constructive. So this is a big question, and it's one that I've wrestled with in my own life. Does that mean that we should never express anger? And this is near and dear to me because as a child, anger was literally beaten out of me. Little girls were not allowed to be angry in my family. And at least I wasn't. And maybe some of you grew up in the same way. Children should be seen and not heard. And angry is a very unbecoming, unladylike emotion. Um, so does that mean that we should just stuff it? It took me years to learn that stuffing it doesn't help. It actually can fester and seep its way out through other avenues. When we don't address our anger, it could come out in all sorts of negative ways through our health, our bodies, our mental and physical health, through passive aggressive behaviors, through resentment, things that really eat us up. So anger is something to embrace, and it's something to transform. So before we jump into the big content, I want to make sure that we're keeping in mind why you're here and to get your needs met as much as possible, your learning needs. So if you could please take a moment in the chat, and if you could summarize in one sentence, what's a challenge you're facing right now that you hope this session will empower you to address? One challenge that you're facing right now could be a challenging relationship, could be a triggering situation that you're in, anything where emotional self-management is calling you to this workshop. Please go ahead and put that in the chat. And Oleg, so people don't get tired of hearing my voice, would you mind reading some out for us, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
So I see to set boundaries at work without being seen as lazy, remain calm and not staying in my emotions, managing reaction to employee outbursts, handling rejection in the dating world. Not the scope of this program, but still useful. Absolutely. Um, Somebody said, I cuss a lot. People don't like it. Uh, Perimenopause is real and making it quite difficult to remain calm at work sometimes, the physiological reasons. A clear communication with my partner. There's a question, how do I constructively speak my feelings? How to deal with others who don't see my viewpoint, whether it be friends or future colleagues, while not getting emotional. Not reacting in the moment from overwhelm and anger. Wow, we have a lot of responses here, which is great. I'm doing it. I'm going to a new job next week and I lack self-confidence because I'm overweight. I've been unemployed for over a year and I'm dealing with memory loss due to living in a home with toxic mold. Wow, it's quite a situation. To not become reactive, um, handling rejection or handling social rejection, anger over the political situation, looking for a job that may need this important skill. Yes, we're getting quite a lot of responses here. Everybody's coming with their own own experiences and their own needs.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing my best to keep up with reading them. This is really juicy stuff, and I'm already feeling it hit my heart in a lot of.
Hmm.
And for those of you who are here and reading these texts, in addition to your own, I'm guessing.
Oh, folks can't actually see each other's messages, so
Oh,
those messages, their messages are private. We can read them, but people can't read each other's messages.
well,
That's
thank you for that reminder. I noticed there were a couple relating to mental health, also PTSD and anxiety. And how do you not let your what's going on in your personal life bleed into the office also? And how to check your baggage at the door, so to speak. Not that it's baggage, but um, irrational boss. Um, okay. Oleg, thank you so much for helping. That's we could probably spend the session reading more of these.
of
But
course.
you and I have had a chance to skim them, and I just want to say thank you for sharing. Um, this is gold, and I'm going to hold this as close as I can during this session so that we can address as much as we can of why you're here, and hopefully have time at the end for any questions if we didn't address it fully. So, all right, Oleg, thanks for your team team help. Okay, so at that, let's jump in. What we're going to cover today is in three sections. One is around anger as a gift rather than a curse. How do we do that? And then you're going to walk away today with one tool, and it's a tool that I've practiced myself for years, called Empathy Dojo. It can be used to turn fireballs of triggering reactive situations and comments into empathy for ourselves and for the other person. It's that transformation from fire to water. How can we be the water? And it's a practice that I still practice this day for deep healing, actually. Um, and then finally, uh, we're going to end with a brief section, but a powerful one on wisdom and discernment. Because this is a leadership focused session, this is the time for wise leadership and discerning leadership. There's so much going on that we need to be able to cut through the noise and really discern and focus on what matters. So that's what we're going to focus on. And let's jump in, beginning with the gifts of anger. It might not feel like a gift. So, how do we get there? First of all, let's acknowledge the reality. As many of you said in the chat, we don't have to look that far to find something to feel angry about, whether it's in our own lives or in the world around us. Uh, in the office, we can be overwhelmed with unrealistic expectations of ourselves, of us. No matter how much we do, no matter how fast we go, no matter how productive we are, it's never enough. And people always want more. It's almost like we're punished instead of rewarded for being more efficient. Because when we're more efficient, then that actually creates a vacuum for even more stuff to do. And I will give you a confession of something that I feel some shame about, actually. Back when I used to be a manager years ago at our favorite utility, Southern California Edison, someone once gave me um, some advice that I regret that I took. And the advice was that if you want something done, give it to your busiest employee. It sounds counterintuitive. If you want something done, give it to your busiest employee. And the reason is usually the busiest ones are the ones that are most committed. They're the ones who will stay late to make sure it gets done. They're the ones who take their job seriously. But then that's not fair to them. And that creates a team dynamic of unfairness where some people get off easy and other people are overwhelmed. So that's a moment in my own leadership journey that I regret. And yet that happens a lot. And we see a lot of overwhelm and just an endless cycle of busyness. There's other reasons that we can feel angry in our workplace. Maybe we have a toxic environment, or we work with people that really push our buttons. Or maybe we realize that we're complicit in harm that our company is doing in the world. Some of us work for companies that are harming the environment or that are treating workers, whether here in the US or in other parts of the country, um, not as humanely as we would like. Are we complicit in that by showing up and collecting a paycheck from this employer? This is a time when a lot of us are digging deep into our hearts and asking the big questions about why are we here and what is our purpose. And that's just at home, in our day-to-day lives around us. Let's look at the world around us. I mean, it goes to say, and a number of you said this in the chat, which was, political changes, geopolitical changes, not just here in the US. Uh, a lot of radical changes are going on right now. Those of us who have federal jobs or jobs that rely on federal funding, are at tremendous risk right now. Technological changes. We've already seen a tremendous amount of automation due to technology. And now with generative AI and large language models, I mean, we are now going to see some of the biggest waves of automation of jobs. And what does that mean for us? It means it's going to be harder than ever to stay relevant. Environmental, I'm sure many of us still share the heartbreak and are with the recent fires in Los Angeles. And if you look all around the world with the environmental disasters that are going on due to climate change, much of it, it is heartbreaking. And it can make us angry that we're not doing more about it to help people and to stop the forces in the first place. Public health, this Work Ready program, came around at the time of COVID. We are in a post-pandemic world, and we may see more in the future. What does that mean for us? And then, not finally, because there's probably longer to this list, we are seeing radical changes in the way people work compared to the prior generation. More gig workers, which means less security, less consistency, fewer benefits, more remote work, which makes it harder for personal connection and harder to read people because we don't have the benefit of that body language and other factors where you can kind of feel each other's energy. So we are definitely in a time when it's easy to feel vulnerable and angry, on edge. So the key here is, instead of letting our emotions get the best of us, how do we use our emotions in a way to make us even more effective and even stronger? As with fire, right? If anger is a fire, fire can be used to destroy, and it can be used to transform. So how do we use it to transform? So a question to think about in a moment is, when we think about our emotions in our lives and our relationship with emotions, it's interesting how so many of our best and worst decisions of our life are driven by strong emotions. Strong emotions can drive us to make the best or worst decisions in our lives. And I'll give you a little story about that. I'm going to stop share for a moment. And in a moment, I'll ask you if that's true for you. But I mentioned a while back that I was a manager at Southern California Edison. And I learned so much from that job, and I'm so grateful for that experience. It was one of the best decisions I ever made to say yes to it. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made to leave that job. So, one of the most painful moments of my career happened 2 years into this management job. And there were a lot of changes in the regulatory environment, in the organizational environment. And I kind of knew that my department was going to be on the chopping block. And I felt so overwhelmed at trying to prove our worth here's our value. Look at all the millions of dollars that we're saving the organization. And no matter how much I tried to make a case for our value, I just, it wasn't going to work. We were going to go away. And I just remember feeling that it was all our hard work was futile, that overwhelm, feeling unappreciated, feeling not valued for so much work, and the team, for myself, like all of our work, like, don't you care, right? And also, I was going through personal challenges at the time as well. This was way back in the 90s, when being openly gay was very controversial. I mean, these were the days when Ellen DeGeneres coming out was, front page news, and she was pretty much blacklisted for years for coming out. It wasn't long after that. And so I was still in the closet and suppressing that and trying really hard to avoid people's personal questions about my life, um, for fear of judgment. And so um, a turning point came for me when I was in so much pain. I was taking a lunch break in the mall. I'll try to make this story shorter. And I made eye contact with this old lady, very old, like a great grandmother, sitting on the bench. And in my pain and in my sorrow and in my loneliness and in my overwhelm, we made eye contact. And I swear to God, if there was ever a case for an angel in this world, something magical happened when we made that eye contact. I think her loneliness and my loneliness connected. The world suddenly became clear. It was like, what am I doing? Why am I wallowing in misery? And so I decided it's time to leave this job. And it's time for me to come out and just be honest. It's time to be honest about who I am, be honest about what I think. And I'll end the story by saying that in the months before I did leave that company, I was honest. I came out to my team, and I have friends from that after that moment that are still with me today because of that bonding that happened of being honest. We have had interns that on their PhD that were working on organizational development doctorate. And one of the interns asked if I would mentor her. And I said, I'm sorry, but it's a secret, but I'm leaving the company. And why would you want me to mentor you? I'm the youngest of all the managers here. I'm the least experienced. And she said, Lorraine, you're so honest. You're the only example of real leadership that I've seen here. And so what's interesting is instead of leaving in anger and disgust, I was able to leave in grace, um, because I was able to transform my anger at not being appreciated and act like I had nothing to lose. Um, and that was the best decision of my life. It was the best decision to say yes to that job because I learned things that I'm still using today. And it was the best decision to also leave that job. So let me bring it back to you now. I'm going to screen share and ask you the same question. Sorry, a quick here. Oh, there we go. I'm just going to go straight to the question. Have any of the best decisions of your life been fueled by strong negative emotions? If so, please share in the chat. One sentence. And Oleg, if you would be so kind as to share maybe a few of those, depending on how many come in.
Sure, standing by.
Thank you. And while we're waiting, let me go back to this prior slide just to inspire you. The whole premise of why we're going here is to help us not just understand mentally, but actually experience, which we'll do in a moment with the tool, how anger is a gift if we use it well, because it lets us know when our needs are not being met. It points us to areas that might need healing in our lives or some sort of call to change. And it's fuel. Anger can fuel us to go from being passive complaining in our armchairs, in our comfortable nests, to growing wings and making the energy to fly higher or maybe fly elsewhere. So at that, Oleg,
Yes.
what do we see?
So we've got actually just exactly what you were talking about. Somebody said, left a job that was toxic for me and found a new job that was good for me. I quit a highly toxic job because my anger fueled me to stand up for myself and leave despite not knowing what was next. A yes to end my first marriage that was emotionally and physically abusive when divorce was not allowed in my culture. I felt anger about a musical project being taken away from me and ended up writing 5 songs of my own on my own. Yes. A lot of these choices, somebody said, were fueled by aha moments. So this is somebody said, I moved to Texas due to a strong emotion, love. I moved in with my then boyfriend and now we are married.
Yeah.
So we had divorce and marriage, forcefully complaining about conflicting priorities and burnout. That's another response. Let's see. Is it that 100% it had some adverse financial consequences, which are still happening, but I've never felt better, never.
Mm.
Somebody said, I'm upset with the climate, so I'm going to get a master's of regenerative studies to help the climate.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that.
we get a lot of great responses here.
Yeah. I also saw one pop up about leaving a physically abusive relationship. I know you mentioned
Hmm.
abuse
Yeah.
earlier, but seems like that's a theme for some of us here. Wow. Oleg, thank you for sharing, and thank you all for sharing your stories. These are so powerful, and it can really inspire. I hope that inspired you because it certainly inspired me. Um, that depending on how we use our anger or our strong emotions, it can propel us into making some of the best decisions of our life. However, that often takes courage and clarity, and we're going to work on that. So let me go ahead and jump into our tool, which can help us get there. And the tool is called Empathy Dojo. And for those of you familiar with martial arts, a dojo is a place where you can spar to get better. And I want to call it fighting because really martial arts is about taking someone's energy and turning it into using your own power with it. So that's what Empathy Dojo is. It's taking someone's fireball or the fireball of a situation. And how do I take that fireball and turn that into something productive, constructive? So, a few concepts to help us practice the dojo. This is based, as Oleg mentioned, on nonviolent communication, which is a set of practices and principles for mindful communication, for conscious leadership in every part of our lives, personal and professional. And you might notice that for those of you who are familiar with this, that the giraffe often shows up as a mascot to nonviolent communication. The founder of nonviolent communication is often, if you see YouTubes of him, Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, he often uses giraffe puppets and jackal puppets to describe our sort of our best and most raw selves. And the reason for the giraffe is that it's the largest mammal, land mammal here we go. The land mammal with the largest heart. The land mammal with the largest heart. And so nonviolent communication, for that reason, is often called compassionate communication. And the term nonviolent can also confuse people because it's like, does this mean that we're violent? Is this a de-escalation practice? And the answer for what we're doing in today's session is no, it's not meant for in the moment de-escalation, although nonviolent communication can be used for that. The tool that I'm about to share with you is a dojo. So we're practicing it in our private lives by ourselves so that when we show up in that conversation, when we're about to write that email, that we can do it from a place of clarity and centeredness instead of anger, blame, wanting to punish someone, wanting to hurt or lash out. So it was developed in the 1960s by an American psychologist named Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. And if you think about at the time what was going on in the 1960s, it was inspired by the nonviolent movement for civil rights by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and so many others. And it was also inspired by Gandhi and the nonviolent movement there in India with England. And so that's how the name got to us. But it's not just in name only, it's also in the spirit of nonviolent communication. So at the end of this section, we're going to get back to the words of Dr. King to help us center and find our own clarity around our situations. So a few little quotes on anger to help frame where we're coming from. Um, Oleg, so again, would you mind reading some of the quotes to help make this a little more interesting vocally for folks, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Thanks.
Sure, Marshall Rosenberg on anger. The cause of anger lies in our thinking, in thoughts of blame and judgment.
Oh, thank you, Oleg. And I love in one of his videos that you can find on YouTube, if you just put in the search engine Marshall Rosenberg anger, um, he gives an example of what if someone's late to a meeting? My reaction to that will vary. It's not about them, it's about me. It's my thoughts of blame and judgment that drive what I'm feeling. So, for example, one possibility is if they're late to a meeting, I can feel angry because you don't care about me. You don't care about me. If you cared, or you don't respect me. If you respected me, then you would show up on time. So that's one interpretation. Another feeling, I might feel relieved because maybe I'm really busy and I could use that time to work on other stuff while you're getting there because maybe I'm not prepared for the meeting. Have you ever been relieved that someone showed up late because I needed that wiggle room? Or maybe I'm just frustrated because I really want to be productive. And not having you there is I cannot benefit from your ideas yet. So whether I feel frustrated, angry, or relieved, it all depends on my interpretation of what your intentions are. So this is at the root of nonviolent communication is stepping into our power. Our power lies in that no one can make us feel anything. Our emotions come from our needs being met or not met. We feel have nice feelings, positive feelings like happiness, satisfaction when our needs are met. And when our needs are not met, we can feel angry, disappointed, fearful, lots of negative responses. So just to kind of prove this point, I'm going to invite you into an exercise to do right now is I'm going to set a timer for 1 minute. And when I do that, I'm going to ask if you can try to feel angry without a single thought or image in your mind. Okay? Try to feel anger without a single thought or image. Ready? Go. No thinking, no specific thoughts or image. Just try to feel angry. 30 seconds left. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Please type in the chat. How was that? Were you able to feel anger? Not possible to be angry. No, not much. No, 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 no. Couldn't do it. Impossible. It was hard. Couldn't do it. Yeah.
Actually, I don't know about feeling angry. I was able to generate the accoutrement of angry. Like I was able to, do the angry things. Like I was able to do angry motions. And that kind of made me feel a little bit angry, but it wasn't as, it wasn't this quite the same.
Oh, I love that, Oleg. Yeah, I think what you just proved was the mind-body connection.
Hmm.
Is
Became,
I'm not an expert on this, but I've heard that, somatically, our bodies can hold emotion. And that can go both ways. So if you can access your body, you might be able to access old emotions, whether you remember them or not.
Mhm.
And so I'm wondering if maybe that's what you experienced or not. What do you think?
Possibly. I mean, I wasn't really thinking about anything. I was just going, okay, what is it? I know what anger does to my body. And so I was just doing that.
Yeah.
You ball up your fists and you make a face and, like you get tense and you feel, your muscles kind of clench up, right? So I was just doing that, when I said, well, you can't think of anything, have an image. So there wasn't any image in my mind. It was just, I mean, the action itself.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, thank you for sharing that. Oh my gosh. Well, regardless of your experience, what I hope the takeaway is, oh, Oleg, if you don't mind staying with me, we've got some juicy quotes for you to read again if you're up for it.
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm gonna like high five you for all your help. Thanks for helping keeping it fresh. Um, the takeaway that I hope you all get, even with the physical example that you shared, is that so much of our emotion, anger in particular, really lies in our interpretation of the situation, of the meaning we attach to it. If I walk by and say hello to someone and they don't say hello back, does that mean that, am I angry because they're a jerk? Does that mean they don't care about me? Does that mean I don't matter? See, this is all stuff that I'm telling myself. I'm choosing those interpretations. Honestly, maybe they just found out they had cancer. Maybe their spouse asked them for a divorce that morning. We have no idea. And so, again, this is part of the practice is being able to distinguish how much of this is coming from us, and how much is the reality. And in other workshops, if you for those of you who choose to continue learning nonviolent communication, this is part of the practice, is learning to actually check out our judgments. It's like, hey, you didn't say, here's the observation. You didn't say hello to me. And instead of blaming or judging, like, don't you care about me, right? To go into empathic curiosity. Hey, you didn't say hello. Is there something going on? Are you okay? To actually express genuine care, to come from empathy instead of what's wrong with you? Blame, judgment. Exactly. All right, ready for a couple more quotes, Oleg? All right, here we go.
Blaming and punishing others are superficial expressions of anger. And use anger as a wake-up call to unmet needs.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the danger of anger, is when we are in a place of judgment, blame, anger, that usually puts us in a place of wanting to be punitive. I want to punish you. And so that's why, the United States prison system is famous for people coming back over and over again. Recidivism. I struggle with
Yeah,
that word.
recidivism. Yeah, I think you got it.
That's a tongue twister. Whereas in other countries, it's more focused on restorative practices. Oh, can we help employ you, give you skills or whatever treatment you need? And so, those are very wide. There are programs here in the US that I hope continue to grow that are more restorative versus punitive. But when we are in a place of punishing, all that does is isolate and separate in the name of safety or in the name of punishment. But that doesn't solve things. And so when we're angry, how do we transform that into, instead of pointing, here's that finger here. I'm gonna give you a big hand in the camera here. for, for every one finger that I point at you, ooh, we're taught it's not polite to point, right? It means that there's three fingers pointing back at us. How do we focus instead of you focusing on me? And now this is the power place, because when I'm focused on you, the only thing I can do is try to punish you. But if I focus on me, I can still engage you, but from a place of what do I need? What's important to me? What is the interpretation that I'm giving the situation? So This is sounding a little theoretical. We're going to get to practical real soon, so please bear with me. This is setting the stage for the context of what we're about to do. So to enter the dojo and practice this tool, we need to focus on something called what are our needs? And to introduce this concept in nonviolent communication, we ask the question, what qualities do you value in your relationships? Could we just have a big brainstorm in the chat? Let's see. What qualities do you value in your relationships? And Oleg, if you don't mind just reading them
Yes.
rapid fire.
I see trust, emotional maturity, several honesty, another trust, vulnerability and maturity, respect, trust and reliability,
Mm,
accountability or good listening, funny or humor, so much honesty. A lot of people value honesty, quality time, somebody puts in that time, a
mhm.
consistency, a communication, honesty and integrity, kindness, trust, laughter, and altruism.
Oh, thank you. I know there's probably more coming in, but you get it. You get it. Hold on to this question because you're going to need this to enter the dojo. Okay. Hold on to this. See how easily that came to you? Qualities you value in your relationships. So easy. Now, in nonviolent communication, this is called needs, not to be confused with neediness, not to be confused with a demand. I need this or else, right? But needs in terms of what does our heart need? What does our humanity need that we can all value and appreciate? So, how do we use this concept in a practical way to help us transform anger? So, one is to be aware that there's an entire spectrum of needs that we all share. This is just a partial list. You generated an even bigger list in the chat, but these are the things that help us transcend from anger into self-connection, self-empathy. What's important to me that's not being honored? Is this about respect? Is this about dignity? Is this about kindness? What am I needing in this situation that I'm not getting? This is the power move, is to go from blame and judgment to what's important to me? What do I need here that's not getting met, that's not being honored? That's the power step. So here, welcome to the dojo. Okay, there's 4 steps, and I'm going to invite you to practice this. These are kinesthetic steps, meaning we can use our bodies for this, and it really helps. It's hurt you, hurt me, empathy for you. And for those of you who are registered, you will have a copy of these slides to help you to practice this. But I'm going to invite you to all do this along with me. And there's 4 body movements that come with these steps. So if you want to play along, Oleg, thanks a lot. Here we go. So hurt you is you shake your fist at the other person. And that's when you just go off. This is getting in touch with your negative emotions, uncensored, unfiltered, hurt you. Like, oh my gosh, who do you think you are? No, 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 right? Okay, the next step is hurt me. And this is now a fist to my own self. And this is about the negative self-talk we give ourselves. It's like, oh my gosh, maybe they're right. Maybe I am a blah, 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 blah. Maybe I'm not cut out for this job. Oh, maybe it's all about me. I'm the problem, right? And so the third step is empathy for me. And that's when we connect to the universal human needs that we uh, expressed just recently. What am I needing that's important? I'm wanting maybe more kindness or more consideration or more respect in this situation because for whatever reason, it's up to me. And then the last step is from our hand to our heart for self-empathy. Now it's time for empathy for the others. Empathy for you. And that's when we're guessing the need for the other person. If they're upset at us or they throw a fireball our way, obviously there's some need that's not getting met on their end. They're not necessarily a monster. They're someone who also is not getting their needs met. That's why they're angry, or that's why they said something that might feel hurtful to us. So, are you needing respect? Are you needing to be heard? Are you needing acceptance? Whatever the reason is. So, Oleg, you want to help me play around? We're going to do a couple demos and then invite you all who are here to practice this yourself. So, here's the steps. And it's important to pay attention to this script because the hardest step are the last two steps: empathy for myself and empathy for the other person, because that's usually not where we go to very easily when we're angry. And so we stick to the script for the last two steps, whatever that need is. And remember, the need is the quality we value in our relationships, whether it's trust, whether it's honesty, etc., is important to me. And then, what might be important to you. So, Oleg, are you ready to throw a fireball my way that I can practice, demonstrate the dojo with?
Uh,
I can,
y-
I can give you one.
yes, if you give me one, then I will throw it your way.
Okay. How about uh how about you're too sensitive? Are you
Lorraine,
ready?
yeah.
Okay.
Lorraine, you're too sensitive.
Ah, okay. Hurt you. Well, you're too callous. You're heartless. Well, I'm too sensitive. My sensitivity is a superpower. It's not a weakness. I know how to read the room. I can smell smoke before there's a fire. How dare you see it as a weakness? It's my strength. I think you need to be more sensitive. You're too callous. Okay, so that's hurt you. Okay, next is hurt me. Oh my God, maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I'm just really fragile. Maybe I need a thicker skin. Maybe I don't belong here. Maybe I'm not tough enough to work in a place like this. Okay, so that's hurt me. It's that negative self-talk. Okay, now here come the challenging steps is empathy for me, hand on my heart. Okay, what might be important to me in this situation? And for me, this may not be for you if you were being told you're too sensitive, but for me, I would say it's about acceptance. Um, Acceptance is important to me because I would like you to accept that maybe I'm more emotional than you are or than than you're used to, right? Could you just accept me as an emotional person? And sometimes I can feel things very differently. Can you accept that I am a sensitive person and actually value that? So, okay, so that's empathy for me. Acceptance. That's a quality we all value in our relationships. Now, here's the biggest stretch is empathy for you. For Oleg to be upset with me and say, you're too sensitive, I now, because this is practiced in private, the dojo is something we practice by ourselves. I'm not in a place to ask Oleg, what's important to you? In a conversation, we could do this, but for the sake of the dojo, I'm going to pretend like I'm by myself and say, what might be important to Oleg in this situation? Um, maybe um, maybe ease. Is ease important to you? Because um, if 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 it feels like you might be afraid to step on a landmine if you say something that might upset me, right?
Mhm.
Maybe you just want some ease in our relationship and not worry about, uh, you know,
Yeah,
saying
getting
something.
getting into these kind of getting into these issues that are unexpected.
Yeah, exactly. And for Oleg, it might not be ease. It might be lots of other things. Oleg, does
I
anything
was
come up
thinking,
for you if you
I
want?
was thinking like efficiency, like especially at work. I just want to, I just need to get it done. I don't have time to deal with sensitivity, to deal with emotions. I'm getting pressure from my boss to get something done.
Yeah. How
I'm on a
often?
tight deadline.
Exactly. And we see that trickle down a lot. Your boss barks at you, get it done, right? And so now you bark at me, you know. And so we ain't got no time to process your feelings. We have a deadline, right? And so that could be another need is efficiency important to you? Because you're under pressure from your boss that we need to get this done and we don't have time to talk it over. You know?
Yeah.
So this is the empathy that helps us, me, instead of seeing Oleg as that barking, controlling boss, as, someone who's really feeling a lot of pressure, right? And maybe he still cares about me, but right now we don't have the luxury of talking about everything. So this is one example. So let's do um, some examples that you might have. Do you have any fireballs to suggest in the chat? And I'll demonstrate them. So give me a fireball and Oleg will throw it at me. And then I'll invite you to do it. Oh, there we go. You're too
Yeah,
critical.
that's a good one.
Okay. All
Lor-
right.
Lorraine, you're too critical.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Here we go. Hurt you. I'm not critical. I just care about quality. My God, do you want me to pass over flaws? I care about excellence. I care, like, I'm here to help you. My criticism is really to help you grow. How dare you call me critical? I just care. Yeah. Okay, hurt me.
Was it? Oh, am
Oh,
I too critical?
yeah. Am I too
Do-
critical? Yeah. Do you want to do this together? It'd be
Yeah,
fun.
do I nitpick? And do I really is it just nitpicking? Do I talk about things that don't matter?
Yes. Uh, Here's one. Oh my God, I'm just like my father. Okay, third step. Empathy for me. What's a quality we all value in relationships that's not getting honored here? What's important to me?
Order.
Mm, yeah, maybe
Yeah.
is order is important to me. Would that be up for you, Oleg?
Yeah,
Would
that's
you want to complete that?
order. Yeah, order is important to me uh, because I need to make sure that things are according to the framework that we had set up or the rules or checklists that had been set up before.
Yeah. So I might come off as critical, but I'm really just wanting to uphold some order here because that's so important in this work. Okay, here's the hardest step. Empathy for you. If someone calls me critical, what are they longing for? What's important to them? And I might guess kindness,
Mm,
or gentleness.
yeah,
So
freedom.
yeah, or free. It could be lots of things. So I might say, is kindness important to you? Because if I see you doing something that maybe you could do better, maybe you'd like me to say it more kindly and maybe not so abruptly. So that's how we do the dojo. Yeah. Oleg, what do you think? Should we do one more example, or do you think we're ready to dive in?
I think if we can probably quickly do one more. We got a few good ones here.
Okay, you want to pick a fireball? We'll demo.
Yeah. Um, oh, this is a juicy one here. Um, why don't you let someone else with more experience do it?
Oh, fireball,
That's
fireball.
that's
Okay, you ready? Uh, do you want to throw it at me, or do you want me to throw it at you?
oh yeah. Why don't you throw it at me?
Okay. Could you repeat it? Oh, I can see it in the
Yeah.
chat. Or why don't you let someone with more experience do it? Is that
Mhm.
it?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Oleg, why don't you let someone with more experience do it?
Don't you know what I've done before? You have no idea what experience I have. Are you a terrible boss?
That's hurt you.
That's hurt you and it hurt me. Eh, Do I not have enough experience? Am I am I really not competent enough to do this activity? Empathy for me, m- my need for uh, acceptance or appreciation is important to me because this is my job and I feel it has a purpose. And if it's seen that I'm not able to meet that purpose, then there's sort of something vital in my life is not being fulfilled.
Mm. Remind me, what was that underlying need of
Oh,
something?
the need was uh, acceptance.
Acceptance.
Mm,
Yeah. Okay. Now the stretch.
to you, so that maybe you have competing priorities or your need. Let me see, your need for I don't know
Could you read the script?
choice. Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Is it?
is choice important to you?
Mm,
Because as a supervisor, you have various people to work with, and you have to choose who you feel is the best person for a specific job.
there you go. Yeah. So Oleg, when you did that, did you notice any shift?
Yeah, I definitely thought about, I mean, the most powerful one for me was empathy for you because I had to now think, okay, I feel certain ways, but when I think about you, lets me out of it lets the needs that I have kind of relax a little bit because now I'm thinking about I'm trying on what you are feeling for size.
Exactly. And we may not know unless we have a conversation. I mean, it could be the need for choice, like you said. It could be lots of things. It could be need for choice. It could be need for safety, for example. I mean, I worked with a vice president once that wouldn't take any risks. He would be the one to always give it to the most senior person because he was embarrassed, like publicly embarrassed by something happening that um, that he felt he should have known about. And so ever since then, he wouldn't take chances on people. So that could be like a trauma response for some people. I'm not going to take any chances. Give it to the most, I need safety. Give it to the most experienced person. So we have no idea what's behind that. And for someone like me, it would be choice. I want that freedom. I want that choice. Um, it could be competence, it could be lots of things, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that we are making an attempt, instead of blaming and judging you as this horrible person, I'm now seeing you as another human being just like me who's trying to get your needs met. Whether I agree with it or not, whether it's constructive or not, I'm still going to hold you accountable, but I'm going to do it from a place of empathy instead of judgment. So, okay, Oleg, thank you. Everyone who's here, your turn. Take a fireball, and because this is a learning session versus a therapy session, I would like you to pick a fireball that's not too hot, one that maybe you're losing some energy around and is draining you, but try to pick one that would not send you reignite any trauma, for example, or make you disconnect from this workshop. Okay. We learned to drive in the parking lot, not on the freeway. So pick a parking lot version and give it a try. And we'll give you a minute or so in silence to practice it. And let us know how it went in the chat. And if you have questions, we'll address them at the end because we still have a little more content to get to. But right now, give it a try and tell us, how did it go for you? I'll give you about a minute or so. Set my timer. I'm muted. Thank you. Thank you. Get by with little help from my friends. How was it for you to go through the Empathy Dojo steps? So someone said, so. Okay. Even a baby step is a step. I loved it. Why do I have to do things your way? No, you don't have to. This is about shifting from a place of anger into a place of empathy. It's tough, yes. The first day in the gym is you're going to do some weightlifting. Mm. So I'm seeing some mixed results from loved it, very helpful, to more clarity and not for me. Oh, that's the timer saying it's time. Helpful.
Definitely not easy to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Something that, yeah, like you
And
get
that's
emotionally sore.
yeah. And that's why it's the dojo, because it's like going to the gymnasium. It's like lifting weights. It can be sore the first time, and yet this
Mhm.
is a practice. And let's talk a little more about how to use this practice in ways that could help us. And I'll just get to some frequently asked questions, because I see that we've got about 20, just under over 20 minutes left. Is why don't we go straight to empathy? Why do we have to do the hurt you and hurt me part? And part of that is for those of us who tend to stuff our emotions, this is the step to actually become aware of our emotions. Without emotional awareness, we're not able to address it. We need to actually see it. And so that's a step for people like me who tend to rationalize or stuff emotions. Another frequently asked question is, if we have empathy for the other person, does that mean letting them get away with bad behavior, right? With harmful behavior? Does that mean now that I understand that you're just a human being trying to meet your needs and I have empathy, does that mean it's okay? Absolutely not. Empathy is useless without accountability. And we're going to get to that with Martin Luther King Jr.'s example. So accountability is key. So one thing that I've noticed, especially for those of you who tried it, and first time might be a little rough, but for those of you who've tried it and are still struggling, the times that it was hard for me and I'm still not able to find peace or forgive, and I keep coming back to that thing in the past that happened, in my own experience, it means that I haven't gone deep enough into my own experience of anger, and how I was really hurt. Like the certain like the layers of the onion. On the outer layer might be, oh, this is about respect. I want more respect, right? But if I peel back the onion into the more tender layers, maybe it's about love. Maybe I really want you to love me. And that's a lot harder for me to admit. It's a lot easier for me to say I want respect. It's a lot more tender and vulnerable for me to say I want love. So a lot of it has to do with self-forgiveness for me. You know, if I'm so angry at what you did and I'm not able to let that go, in my own experience, is maybe I need to forgive myself for saying yes to that job or saying yes to that relationship or saying yes, why didn't I leave sooner? Why didn't I speak up for myself when I had the chance? These are the things that I need to forgive in myself if I'm going to be able to have empathy for the other person. So that's why we call this the jackal, is being aware of that angry part of ourselves, um, to see those emotions that may not be pretty, that we might be ashamed of experiencing, and owning that and forgiving ourselves first. So how might this technique shift a specific relationship in your life? I'm going to skip the typing in the chat right now in terms of reading it, though you're welcome to do it, just so we can get to the last bit of this content and get to your questions, because that's a really juicy part of this workshop as well. But make a mental note right now, is how might this help you shift a relationship in your life? What situation or relationship could benefit from more empathy? And actually, let's read a couple. Let's see. I'm seeing a comment. Truth be told, when these things happen in the workplace, the power dynamics at play may mean harm is actively done to subordinates. This has impact, absolutely, on our physical and mental health. The biggest mistake people make when they practice nonviolent communication is to think that empathy means tolerance. It does not. And that's a perfect, that chat is so perfect for what we're about to get into, which is right now, wisdom and discernment. So first of all, in the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, the reason we move to empathy is because hate multiplies hate, violence multiplies violence, and toughness multiplies toughness in a emphasis, descending spiral of destruction. So hating haters is like fighting darkness with darkness. How do we become the candle? How do we become the light in the room? And that is what change is about. It's not because I have empathy for you, I'm going to let you get away with stuff. Absolutely not. In the words of Dr. King, with every ounce of our energy, we must continue to rid this nation of the incubus of segregation. He's talking about racism, but you can put anything in there, any toxic behavior you're seeing. But we shall not, this gets to the point you were making in the chat, we shall not relinquish our privilege and our obligation to love while abhorring segregation, shall love the segregationists. This is the only way to create the beloved community. So the path to peace and the path to harmony in the workplace and in our world is to abhor and to stand against the things that lower our humanity, that we disagree with. And Dr. King and his example, I mean, even if it means getting arrested, even if it means our bodies being broken, even if it means losing everything, including our lives, we will not tolerate behaviors that lower our humanity. So this is not about because I have empathy for you, I'm letting you off the hook. It's quite the opposite. It's we will resist things that lower our humanity. We will resist the toxic behaviors, but we do it from a place, in Dr. King's words, with love. While hating, well, here's it, while abhorring segregation, we love the segregationist. While abhorring toxic behavior, we shall love the person committing that behavior. And that does not mean tolerating it. It means holding them accountable with empathy. So we shall so appeal to your hearts and conscience that will win you in the process. And our victory will be a double victory. And if we cannot change you, then we need to get our needs met elsewhere. And that goes into leadership. So that's the last section of what we're here for, which is how do we tap into our wisdom and our discernment? Is this a job where I'm going to talk to my boss about what's going on and tell them about the harm that's being done and try to make a change? Or is this a job that maybe my effort is useless and I need to think about another way or maybe another option, maybe even leaving this job? So how do we pay attention to what's calling us from the inside? This is about coming from a place of empathy into wisdom and discernment. And this is the time for discerning leadership. So when we are completely burned out, exhausted, and not taking care of ourselves, it's easy to lose our stuff, our calm, our cool, and go into anger and blame and destructive behaviors. So how do we fill our wells? And here's a long list of things that can do that for us. And please put in the chat, what are ways that you find your center? Is it connecting with nature? Is it meditation or prayer? Or is it holding your baby or holding your pet? Oleg, do you want to read a few?
Sure. Meditation, nature, yoga, breathing, walking outside. That one's for me too. Yoga, gardening, listening to birds in my backyard, tango. Oh, tango's great. I go for a hike, fishing, art and photography, journaling, praying and singing, walking meditation. Looks like religion, knitting, reading, music, cleaning, watercolor.
I love it.
I wish mine was cleaning.
Me too. I love that. And I hope for those of you who heard that, I hope that inspires you maybe to try some of these. We can
So I
have a
said ironing clothes. There we go.
wow. I wish for that as well.
Yeah.
So finding our center is so important. So we're going to do a reflection in a minute um, about wisdom and accessing wisdom as our last activity before we go into a question and answer period. And it's around the question thing about wisdom and empathy for ourselves and others and finding our center invites us into a place of not just intellect, but actually wisdom. And when we have there's a reason that we have an expression for outsmarting each other, right? If we're in our intelligence, we can outsmart each other. And that our outsmarting means that it's a win-lose situation, right? We bought into competition. There's a reason we don't have an expression for outwising someone. When we're in a place of wisdom, we can make the best choice of, do I have that conversation with that person? Is this a relationship I want to keep, try to influence, or leave? When that comes from a place of wisdom instead of reactive anger, then we can make our best choices. And so I'm going to invite you into a quick centering exercise that I practice myself. There are many ways to do this. So this is one of many. But for those of you who are listening right now, I invite you to put your feet on the floor. Feel the weight of, if you're sitting, feel the weight of your body in the chair. Feel the contact of your feet on the ground. Feel the breath coming in and out of your body. Feel the sensations in your body. Notice any areas of tightness or discomfort. And without trying to change them, just let them be. Just accept it. And when I count to three, I'm going to invite us all into a collective inhale for three, well, let's say 4 counts, and exhale for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3. Inhale 4 counts. Exhale for 4 counts. And if you're comfortable with your eyes closed, to ask yourself, what does wisdom want me to know right now about the reason I came here in the first place? You typed your reason for being here. What is that challenge that's in front of you that you want this workshop to help you with? What does wisdom want you to know about that right now? I'll give you a moment in silence to invite that message. What does wisdom want me to know? And once you have that message, I invite you to type it in the chat. Oleg, do you mind reading a few?
Sure. You are enough. Age is not a barrier. I have known all along the answer is to pause, breathe, and act with ahimsa, which is nonviolence. Nothing matters as much as you think it does. That I don't have to prove myself. That to have a better relationship with friends. My boss to know that I am a working bee. Practice patience. Slow down and relax before reacting. I can stop being angry at myself.
Thank you. Thank you, Oleg, and thank you all for sharing that. I see there's still coming in. Oh, golden rule does not tarnish. I like that. Um, that I hope you find inspiration in that. And so in closing this workshop, before we move to the Q&A, I want to just summarize that you're all walking away with two practices. One is the Empathy Dojo, and one was this practice of asking, inviting wisdom, and seeing how easily that message comes when we're connected to our bodies and to ourselves. And so a few closing slides, and then we'll go into a Q&A. For those of you who would like to continue learning, there's some more resources that I can offer you. There's a free workshop that's coming the later the afternoon after another Work Ready program. Is that correct, Oleg? On February 11th?
That's correct. Yeah, February 11th at 11 o'clock is our work ready program, and this yours is, I believe, at 2:30.
Yeah. And I just put that in the chat right now. So the links for both of these are in the chat, and that's free. And then there's also an live course, and it's the free workshops is sort of a promotional for the 5 course series. The NVC Academy that's sponsoring the live course, they have a sliding scale. And my understanding is they don't turn people down due to financial hardship. And so if that's something that's outside of your budget, you can contact them and they can work something out with you. So if that's something that interests you. So those are a couple resources. And Oleg, I think there's also a newsletter resource you could put in the chat. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, I'll post a link to your newsletter, which you've just is it restarted? Is that correct?
Sorry, is restart?
You just restarted your newsletter, is that correct?
Oh, yes, yeah. And for those of you who have your phones handy, you can also do this QR code. Yeah, I just, if the first time in years, really resurrected my mailing list. And so they're little video clips or short articles. The last one was on how to disagree. The other one was about how to express appreciation instead of flattery. So there are little tips on how to be an effective communicator as a leader based on nonviolent communication.
Hey,
So
Lorraine,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt. The first link, the link to the free workshop, I think is looks like it's the same link as the one to the Leading by Example workshop.
yes, it is. And there's two separate buttons on that page. One button
Ah,
is the workshop and the other button is to the series because it's the same program. It's just one is the free introduction.
I see. Sign up for the first session free. Got it.
Yeah. Thanks for noticing that. So in conclusion, before we go to the Q&A, my closing wish for all of you here who are watching this is that the world needs leadership that is empathic, wise, and discerning more than ever. And may what you get from this session empower you to help to create a world that works for everyone. So at that, I'm going to stop share here and invite Q&A.
Yes, somebody mentioned in the chat um, asking for a definite simple definition of discerning, because you mentioned discerning and wisdom. And I think that's a great question to start with.
You know, my favorite definition of discernment comes from the Serenity Prayer. It's, may I, let's see, have the serenity to accept the things I can change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom, and I hear that as discernment, to know the difference. For me, discernment is the difference between accepting the things I cannot change and having the courage to change the things I can.
So through breaking things down, you get a realization and understanding.
Exactly. Exactly. What other questions do you have?
So the first question that came in was, as I age, anger becomes much easier to manage, but peevishness is another matter, and so is snark. Are these strongly related to simmering anger?
Hmm. Snark, and what was the first one?
Peevishness.
Oh, peevishness. Ah, I can't answer that for you. I would say that's a question for more self-examination. If I were to guess that it might have to do with maybe, at least for me, when I feel snarky, that's usually because I'm feeling some resentment. And usually when I'm feeling resentment, it's often in places where I don't feel safe or I don't have the courage to be honest. So it comes out as little darts instead of having a heart-to-heart conversation.
That's
So
interesting. That's
the dojo
interesting.
can help with.
Interesting. I was thinking that listen, somebody is especially snarky or peevish, they don't have control enough to change the thing that they're being snarky about. But what they can do is they can be like, "Ah,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Yeah. So that can still be that finger pointing at them if I'm snarky. What are the finger pointing at me? That's an invitation to go into the dojo. Yeah.
so
Maybe-
uh, I think this is a question about step number 3 of the empathy Jojo. When you agree on his judgment, is there his and their judgment, is that fair for you? I think that there's
Ah, actually, step three, which is the empathy. Let's see, there's the hurt you,
oh, that's right. It's hurt me. So that's the
hurt me. So is it really
maybe
step
it's step 2. Yeah,
two?
because then you think, is am I that way?
Ah, yes. So the hurt me step isn't to try to hurt yourself.
Mm,
Like it's or it's not to try to let them hurt you.
mm,
Absolutely not. This is about revealing what's already inside of us.
mm,
Many of us live with negative self-talk, and much of that has roots or origin stories in past trauma. And so often when we have negative self-talk, even though it might be Oleg throwing me
mm,
the fireball, this might bring up some old childhood memories about, oh, maybe I'm not enough. Maybe I'll never amount to anything. Maybe. So it's not about letting Oleg hurt me,
mm.
but it's about understanding what are the ways that I'm unconsciously hurting myself, ways that uh, so I can see it and transform it with empathy for myself. So instead of self-judgment and self-blame, what's it? Transforming that to
Mm.
self-empathy.
How am I feeling about that, and why am I feeling that way about that?
Yes.
There was a no, this question is the question is what about limits? And I think that the idea behind the question is, kind of are there any like bumpers around the empathy dojo? Because I think that in the idea of taking on some of that, some of that other person's fireball, um, it's possible to get hurt. So in the in a dojo, there are usually mats. What are the kind of the emotional mats
Mm.
in this process?
Yeah. How do I prevent myself from getting hurt by that other person?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we're in the dojo, we don't want to get hurt. We have
Hmm.
guard, right? So if you stay true to the form, the structure has its own guardrails built in because we're already, when we enter the dojo all angry, we're already in a state of self-harm because when we're in an angry place, we're already in a place of wanting to blame and criticize and punish them as well as ourselves. Like, why did I even get myself in the mess in the first place? Why did I set myself up, for this, right? And so by practicing the steps in their purest form of objectively allowing myself to vent in a safe place where I can just observe it like a TV show, or observing my negative self-talk, like I'm just observing it. And then going into empathy for myself and empathy for the others. It's those empathy steps that's the guardrail. Because if I can go from the fire into empathy, then that's something I can all appreciate. Like even though Oleg, I might think that you're a control freak and a micromanager, right? And he hurt you. If I can say, you know what, I have a need for autonomy or freedom or trust, that can soften my own place around myself. And it can help me see you as more human because I can say, maybe you're not a control freak. Maybe you need structure in your life to feel safe or at ease. Is structure important to you? So seeing you as a human instead of a monster actually helps us be into more productive conversations. So when I talk to you, I can say, Oleg, could I have more autonomy in my job? Or could you trust me to make more decisions without checking with you every time? That's a lot more productive than saying, Oleg, would you please be a little less controlling?
Hmm.
See, this is how it translates into action. If I come from a place of judgment, oh, can you be less controlling?
I'm not controlling.
Exactly. Now we're going back and forth and blame, blame, blame. So instead, if I could say, what's important to me? Hey, I really would like some more autonomy in this job, and at the same time, I understand that maybe, there's a reason you want me to check with you. Is there a way that we could find some more autonomy, but still give you the assurance you need that the job will be done well? This is how we have productive conversations that the dojo can help us with. So, well, like, how are we doing? I know we're at time here.
So are you able to answer a couple of more questions? Because we do have a few more. I don't think we're gonna be able to answer all of them, but we can maybe do a few more.
I'll leave it to you, Oleg. I'm here for as long as we need.
Let's do a couple more. So as a lecturer, I often pull the experience card, but I have to say I've learned a lot from toddlers, who are my spirit animals. Would you reflect or comment on the intergenerational benefits of communication with these tools and life in general, please?
Oh, I love it. Oh, that's so
I
inspiring.
didn't want to miss that question.
Yeah, thank you. Well, what you just described by finding the wisdom in toddlers is exactly what the dojo is all about. It's going from a place of judgment into a place of empathy. So think about all the judgments we have for those who have less life experience. Oh, you're just a kid. You don't know what you're talking about. Listen to your elders, respect your elders. Think of all these judgments that we have from society of dismissing the children. So rather than judging them that you don't know anything because you're just a little kid, to having empathy. I'm actually going to listen to you. I'm going to find value in what you have to say to me. So you're actually, that's a perfect example of what this is about, is transcending judgment. Oh, you're too young to have any reasonable experience. Why should I listen to you? To wow, from the mouths of babes. Thank you. Like, any more?
Yeah, what advice do you have for people pleasers?
Oh, well, hello. I'm part of that club. Well, I would do
Hmm.
some empathy dojo because um like my negative self-talk from step 2 is um you know I you know I have a long history of my self-worth. Why do I keep giving my power away to other people's opinions of me? you know why do I keep letting other people's judgment define my worth? And yet what's the empathy for me? Empathy for me is, oh, I want love and acceptance. And maybe I don't need to do anything to earn it. I want just unconditional love, acceptance for who I am. So,
So there's one more question since this is a session on effective leadership. That let's use this as a final question. Is leadership worth it? I'm afraid of it. I think it would make me vulnerable to judgment.
yes. I love that question. What a great question to end on, because that is absolutely true. Could you repeat that? Because there's a
Sure.
lot of juice in that statement.
Is leadership worth it? I'm afraid of it. I think it would make me vulnerable to judgment.
Yes. And the answer is absolutely yes. You will be vulnerable to judgment and you will be judged. As a matter of fact, we tend to expect more and judge our leaders more than we do our colleagues. We're a lot harder on our leaders than we are anyone else in general. And there's this concept called the leadership shadow, meaning that the higher you are in the organization and the more visible you are, the longer you cast your shadow, meaning that you are on display for better, for worse. So you will set the tone for the culture of the organization based on your strengths and your weaknesses. And so, is it worth it? I would say that the greatest leaders in my life and the ones that inspire me are terrified. Doing the courageous stuff is terrifying because it means speaking truth to power. It means being honest, even if it means not being popular. It means doing what's in integrity with our conscience, even if it means not getting that promotion, maybe even being fired. Can we make the wise choice, even if it's an unpopular choice? So I would like to believe that we're all called to leadership, and that means that it's what is that famous quote? And I don't remember who said it. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the willingness to act in spite of fear, something like that. So that's I think, a beautiful way to end this workshop is that I think we're all called into leadership in our own ways. Maybe not in every way, because this is our discernment, right? What does wisdom want me to know? What is the area of leadership that I'm called to practice? Is it just in my relationships in my family? Is it in my community? Is it to the world? I mean, we're all called, like different organs in the body. We're all part of human fabric and called to serve in different places and in different ways, big and small, and all equally important. So at that, may we all exercise our empathic, human-centered leadership in ways that our wisdom tells us to. So, and I wish us all well on that. Thanks,
Lorraine,
Old.
thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and discernment with us today. And I thank all of the folks who are out there who asked their questions and participated and just took in this session. Um, I have a request for you. I have a post-event survey that I'm going to post in the chat. If you could take a second to fill that out, I would very much appreciate it. And with that, once again, thank you, Lorraine, and thanks to all the folks out there, and we'll see you next time.